Hi, I'm Ken Brown, CEO of Destiny Global, and welcome to this edition of Success Tips. This is our bi-weekly teachings that the trainers, the master coaches here at Destiny Global, myself and Dr. Brown, come to you and bring to you so that we can keep you plugged in and keep you on track between events, along with the other things that we offer. Today is a very interesting day in the fact that we have had a number of inquiries to say, Ken, please tell us about some lessons that you learned from EDS. So I'm going to do that today. And some of you are probably going to be surprised because you're waiting for the fluff and stuff. And actually, I'm going to give you what I'm going to call it the things that propelled me, that changed the way that I thought about professionalism, the way that I thought about how the workplace should be. Because you kind of go into a job and you think that you're hired to come in and do a specific thing. Well, when I was hired at ES, I was hired to do things better, always, continually, in all facets of my own personal development as well as making the company better. So I'm going to share 3 critical lessons that I learned, some of them very painfully, but I decided, why not we just open up and just share amongst friends here and really open up and talk about this. So 3 key lessons that I learned that propel me in my career that actually are still just as relevant today as they were then. Okay? Put my glasses on so I can read these clearly for you. Change, number 1. Change is not an option, it is required. Change is not an option, it is required. What this was talking about is in the role that you accept, the job that you come in and you accept to perform, is that you're constantly going to be innovating, that you're constantly going to be moving things forward. As you gain new skills, as software comes out that makes the job more effective, as you can help your teammate do things more effective, you are constantly going to be changing. So if you come to this and you think that you're just going to come in and sit down and do the same thing, punch the same thing over and over again, like you do on an assembly line, think again. Your job is to make things better continually. Now, when you first think about it, it doesn't seem real ominous. But when you're around a group of people that are all high-performance people, kind of like that I have here at Destiny Global alongside my teammates, right? So when you think about Jackie, Carmen, Dr. April Brown, these people are constantly, and my employees, they're constantly pushing forward to be the best they can be at what they do, okay? Now then, when a new piece of software comes out, that allows them to increase their productivity, that allows them to increase their capacity in what they're doing because they can do things faster, they can do things easier. Man, oh man, oh man. Now, why is this significant? Because when I came into the marketplace, believe it or not, I'm kind of a little old, right? So I turned 57 my birthday. And what does that mean? What does that mean to you? I was in the workplace before computers were cool, okay? My first big job was taking carbon paper and making it so that it could be basically duplicable through computer software, and Forms is what it was called. And many of you probably won't even know this. It was called Lotus Notes. Microsoft didn't even exist, right? That's funny. So Lotus Notes was it, okay? And a couple other things. We had a communication software called Bumblebee. It was made by Oracle. It was the pre-runner really to email. So long story short, we were going through a pretty rapid changes because we were actually getting to introduce things that were taking heavy paper-based things, 4-layer carbon paper, for those of you old enough to remember that, where you'd have one would go to shipping, one receiving, one to accounting, and one to operations so that everything runs smoothly across all 4 organizations. We were taking that and putting that into computer software and making it so that they could have enterprise software to allow each department to communicate effectively. Do you realize how quickly things were changing? And if you were going to stay stuck, I am just doing this, you were going to be like the horse and buggy facing a new car world. You were going to get left behind, okay? So your job was to constantly innovate, to constantly think of new ways, and then take that innovation and put it in a package so that it could be sold to clients. It's actually a lot of fun, even though at times it could be intimidating, because you would have to take the skill that you've gained, package it, and then present it to the team so that it could be brought up. Is this something we want to sell? Is this something we want to do? And then that really is how you're measured, is how many products and things you would get to market in a year in the specific program I was in. And you are competing against very qualified people that were look like, dress like, in many cases, just like you. So you had to be constantly focused on looking and thinking about the client, thinking about even what we do here at Destiny Global, even more today than ever, is the client journey, the life and the day of a client, okay? So that first thing is change is not an option, it is required, which was circled into and really encompassed in what I'm going to call innovation. The second one was painful, okay? And I'm going to tell you why in just a second. The second one is get better or get out. Painful lesson, okay? Painful lesson. Many of the coworkers that started the program, the development program that I was hired into, we started off with a class full of people. And over the 2-year period that we went through the training, that class has just continued to shrink. Until the last day that we were going to be graduating, right? Because we all went to our different assignments. We would stay connected versus IDLN. We actually had distance learning before anybody else. We were doing distance learning called IDLN. And we would stay connected with our teammates via this, but we were all given different assignments, but we would come back for our leadership development training together. Kind of like what we do here in master classes and things like that are taught. So we go off and live our lives, we do our thing, but we come back together to learn together, to put those into practice in our specific jobs. So it'd be literally all over the world. And we'd come back, and what I realized is as we were going through the program and people weren't cutting it, and I actually have Butch in studio with me, Butch, these people would end up not making the grade, and they wouldn't be at the next meeting. Where's Johnny? Where's Joan? Where's Jimmy? Where's Sean? Oh, it was an up or out mentality, right? It was, I learned what NFL really stood for in the business place, which meant not for long if you weren't going to be performing. If you were not stepping in to learn and do your job really, really well, you were out. So it was an up or out mentality. So what did that teach me to do? It taught me that I needed to constantly grow my skills, which is something that we believe in so heavily here at Destiny Global. That's what we exist for, is to help you get new skill, because there is literally nothing you cannot do in the world if you gain the skill. Be a medical doctor, you go get the skill. You want to be an attorney, you go get the skill. You want to be the next major influencer on social media, you go get this skill. It's just something that you're lacking that you can go gain to go do. And really, this up or out mentality means there was no excuses ever. You get the skill to do that job. They would give you the skill. They would invest. EDS invested over $120,000 in my education. So I attended schools all over the United States. Ross Pro, who founded EDS, did not believe that one school had all the answers. What he liked is different professors all over the country and some all over the world. So, Mary Gentile, for example, from Harvard. He had North Carolina, University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. We had UCLA. We had all these different professors that would teach certain things because no one school had the answers, but some of the professors did for the things he was looking for. So we had a very diverse training program. So that taught us that we had to value gaining skill. We had to value, and actually it became enjoyable because you started getting your mindset that you were going to learn something. Okay? Just because I don't know it today doesn't mean I'm not going to know it tomorrow. By the way, that's a good lesson for competitors because a lot of them will count you out. Oh, you can't do this. You're going to be this. Or they continue, even in your family, they'll look at you like you're 15 years old, even though you're 35 right now. And your skill set is very different because you've been pouring into yourself. You've been gaining new skill. That is exactly what happened to me. Little Kenny Brown become Ken W. Brown, the CEO, right? Because I gained skill over years, just like you can do, right? What I've done, you can do the same thing. But you have to follow directions. So let's recap. Number 1, change is not an option, it is required. Innovate. Number 2, get better or get out. Whew, tough lesson. That's improving your skills. And the last one was around leadership. And Dr. April Brown and I have been talking about this a lot here recently because it can be lacking. In fact, any of these 3 could be lacking that we're talking about in the workplace today. Because sometimes we want to be soft. Sometimes we want to look at things or we want to blame other people. And this last point number 3 is, if your people on your team are failing, so are you. Ouch! So often as leaders, we want to look at people, well, but our team is just not performing. But they're just not doing what they need to do. Then we have to go look in the bathroom mirror and say, what am I going to do differently to change so that this team can win? Right? And I have to go to this analogy because, I'm filming this. It's going to come out soon. But right now, we're all about Super Bowl season. And there is a certain team that isn't playing in the Super Bowl because they got their stinking butt kicked because they got their coach didn't coach up the players to realize that he's a failure and should have fired himself. I would have quit. I would have stepped down and said, I let you down. Because that team sucked. This been my team where the quarterback, Roger Staubach, Troy Aikman, all the Super Bowl heroes, back to when I was a baby, right? Tom Landry was the man. Now I come up and I got people making excuses why they ain't better. No, just admit it. You should follow these 3 points. Maybe somebody out here that's a Dallas Cowboy fan should forward this message to Jerry Jones. It's your stinking act together, right? Change is not an option. It is required, number 1. Get better or get out, number 2. If your people on your team are failing, so are you. In fact, you could be the reason because you're not teaching them. You don't manage people. You manage processes that the people perform. So if they're not going through the process, they're going to fail. And so are you. If you have things that people are working on at work and they have a process of flow, if they don't have a process or flow, number 1, you need to stop and you need to go back and create that. There's different terms used. I use one that is, was basically beating us is you have standard operating procedures. It's things that we have here at Destiny Global. That's the things that are required for every job that to get that job done. Here are your SOPs, okay? As you implement those, and then we can measure against them because as you manage a process, you can see where something's being broken down. You can see where something is failing. And when you do that, then you can correct it of why, okay? Could be a lot of things. Software is not working correctly. It could be the input points. It could be a misunderstanding. It could be someone just flat being lazy. It could be any of those above or a combination of all those above. But the fact is that you as a leader, when someone's not doing things well, is you're able to identify it and you're starting to correct it. Now, this was more evident at EDS at the time, which was the number 1 software development and application development company in the world. Number 1 outsourcing company in the world, right? That company doesn't exist anymore. Do you know why? Because over time, each one of these became optional. Ross retired, different leaders came in. We had one really bad leader. And I chose to exit the company at that point. And that company got eaten. It got Pac-Man. It got eaten by HP, Hewlett Packard. I stayed with them for a period of time and then realized that there was a lack of leadership there as well, right, along a number of pyramids. Because when you are not willing to own, when you're not managing people well, when you're not leading well, when you're not holding them accountable for what they need to be doing, that you are part of the problem. You are not part of the solution. So what do I do different? What do I look at different? I look at these 3 points. They're actually unified in my head as one. This is how exceptional things are created right here. This is how you go from good to great. You hear the book written by Collins. Everybody talks about good to great. Let me tell you something. It's about going from good to being exceptional. And, I wrote recently did a post about Nick Saban. I'm not an Alabama fan. Chris is. Huge, right? I think you got Alabama's tattoo somewhere on him. There's no telling. I'm not going to ask. I don't want to know. But the truth of the matter is this, is to be a champion, to be excellent. The difference between good and exceptional is light years. It means that you're working on something every single day, not for minutes, but for hours every single day, so that you can become exceptional at something. Okay? It means that you're dedicated to it. It means that it's a priority. It means it's a focus. It means that you're paying attention to it. So as you start thinking about what you're doing in your workplace, as you think about being a husband, a wife, a father, all of these things apply primarily to the workplace, but they can apply to every area of your life, right? Change is not an option, right? Our children grow up. We have to grow with them and be the parent they need, right? Get better. You don't want to get out, but getting better means that you're going to help them improve. You're going to help them grow. You're going to help them gain the skill that they need. And make sure that your team isn't failing. Stay close to them, right? And failing isn't what you think. As April and I are finding out, as our grown children go through different challenges and pursue different opportunities, right? You have to let your children live the life that they want to live. And sometimes that's going to mean bumps and scrapes on their knees, just like I had, just like Dr. April Brown had, just like Jackie and Carmen had. All of us have had bumps on the road. Butch and Diane, right? Some of us have a few more scratches than others. Isn't that right, Butch? But the fact of the matter is this, is that you learn from those and you grow and you never stop learning. So I challenge you today to adopt these 3 things in your life. Number 1, change is not an option, it is required. Change. Innovate. Stay current with what's going on around you. Get better or get out. Gain the skills or don't compete. Number 3, if your team is failing, so are you. Own it. See what you need to change. Manage the process. You'll help the people, right? And always remember this one from me. Every time I talk about this, the one lesson that Ken Brown, who's standing right before you, could do worse than anybody is put the task above the person. Because I was so driven to succeed. Remember, the task does not get performed without the people. So always keep the people first, manage the process, and help them achieve their goals. When you do this, you're going to achieve every goal you have. You're going to exceed every goal you have. You're going to be sought after. You're going to have people chasing you around, calling you, emailing you, trying to give you a job. And the fact is that is a great and wonderful thing because you're going to deserve it. So with that, I want to thank you for joining this edition of Success Tips. And by the way, we have an event coming up in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Information, that's a mouthful. Information will be below for you to get access to. I would love to see you, meet you in person at First Steps to Success, where you're going to gain skill to keep these things alive in your life. And I look forward to seeing you soon.